Number 9. The Drain Mystery. In Carbonear, Newfoundland, an underground entranceway was uncovered in St. John's beneath Water Street. City workers were baffled when they accidentally revealed the stone portal to a mysterious passage just a few feet underneath the street. People suspected it may have been a war shelter from the 18th century. There were also suggestions that it was part of a vast tunnel system that connected old buildings in the town. But in the end, it turned out to be something nobody expected. Carbonear is one of the oldest European settlements in North America that few have ever heard of. The English settled here in the early 1600s, meaning the town is over 400 years old. And during the colonial wars of the 17th century, it was a primary target for French troops. But each time the French attacked, they found the town had been abandoned. All the citizens had fled to the fortress on Carbonear Island. When the citizens fled, they often buried their valuables in random spots. They'd go somewhere in the forest and bury anything they didn't want the French to find. They'd even bury things in secret chambers beneath their homes. Because of the French threat, there were hundreds of random artifacts buried in Carbonear and the surrounding area. When the bizarre structure was found under Water Street, many thought it was used for burying personal property. Archaeologists did find a single piece of pottery from the 1700s, but there wasn't any real treasure. Instead, archaeologists think the stone portal was part of an early drain system, one that was likely installed 200 years ago or more. And now for number 8. But first, I want to give a big shout out to Ray and Amberly NZ. Thanks so much for watching and supporting Origins Explained. We wouldn't be here without you. If you are new here, be sure to subscribe and join us. Number 8. Hollow Earths and Agartha. In the 17th century, astronomer Edmund Halley came up with the idea that the planet is hollow. It was his scientific belief that the Earth is made of concentric shells separated by vast expanses. Each hollow shell has its own atmosphere, plant life, and animals. And the outermost layer, according to Edmund, is the biggest. He believed it to be 500 miles tall, leaving plenty of room for great beasts to grow and civilizations to thrive. Then, a century later, adventurer John Cleve Sims declared that he'd find the entrance to this hidden place underground and explore it. So he devoted the rest of his life to finding the mythical entrance to the Hollow World. Sadly, though, he died before he could. In World War II, Admiral Richard E. Byrd supposedly found the very thing that John Sims had searched for all his life. He worked for the U.S. Navy as a pioneer of exploration. He took multiple trips to the Arctic and allegedly flew over the North Pole. During his flight, though, something strange happened. It's never been verified or confirmed by any official source, but the conspiracy is that as Richard flew over the North Pole, he wrote in his diary that he saw the entrance to the hollow shell inside the Earth. He allegedly saw a gateway to another world, but then he was captured. Aircraft came out of the hole in the ground and intercepted him, forcing him to land. He was then met by emissaries from a civilization called Agartha. Apparently, they were concerned about the conflict above on the surface. So Admiral Byrd became the liaison between them and the US government. It's a really wild story that likely isn't true. There's no evidence that Byrd even reached the North Pole. Scholars think he may have fabricated his navigational records. But if he did write in his diary that he found the entrance to a secret underground world, that diary entry isn't around for the public to see. Number 7. The Smugglers Cave. Culzean Castle in Scotland is a fantastic piece of ancient architecture. It's a powerful fortress that stands at the edge of the cliffs of Ayrshire. And underneath the castle is a system of maze-like tunnels that have been used for centuries. The tunnels were traversed by smugglers and fugitives. And supposedly, they're also haunted. There is a local legend that says a piper and his dog journeyed into the caverns underneath Culzean Castle to dispel the myth about ghosts. The piper began playing his bagpipes as he entered the labyrinth, which sent the noise of his instrument echoing off the rock walls. People in the castle could hear the immense sound the bagpipes were making and the occasional bark from his dog. At least they could hear the noises for a bit. After some time, though, everything suddenly went silent, and neither the piper nor his dog were ever seen again. These days, people sometimes report hearing the faintest echoes of a bagpipe being played when they get close to one of the entrances to the subterranean system. In the 17th and 18th centuries, the underground system was used by smugglers to hide out, but the most ancient history regarding the tunnels is unknown. It's unclear when they were built or what their original purpose was. Samples of charcoal taken from Castle Cave revealed a date of 135 AD. That means the underground labyrinth was used at least 2,000 years ago. Most recently, archaeologists with the National Trust for Scotland came across a forgotten door. Deep beneath the castle, they found a doorway which opens to a mysterious underground tunnel. The tunnel leads to Stables Cave, where medieval smugglers likely parked their boats discreetly. Archaeologists also found shattered pottery and broken wine bottles nearby, perhaps broken smugglers' cargo. Number 6. The Secret Ice Age Cave. In southern Germany, a team of scientists from the University of Tübingen discovered the entrance to a cave from the Ice Age. They already knew about the cave, but the buried entrance was a big surprise. Nobody had used it for 16,000 years. The researchers were excavating the cavern when they identified the original entrance used by prehistoric humans during the Magdalenian period. The last people to climb through the cramped, dirty gateway were Paleolithic cavemen and cavewomen. But how did scientists know about the cave if they hadn't even found its entrance? It's because they used special imaging technology to locate the enormous underground cavity. It's basically a pocket that's about 65 feet long, hidden by rocks and sediment. Since they knew there was a cave, researchers broke into it the hard way. They found evidence of life in the Ice Age, like tools and bones that were left behind by hunter-gatherers. Then, as they were excavating, they found the entrance the cave people used. It had been buried under thousands of years of debris. Scientists wanted to learn what the people of the Ice Age were doing in the cave. Why was it so important? The team thinks the cavern was likely used as a shelter. The Ice Age humans would have crawled down into the gully and wormed their way through the small rock door. Then they used the cave as a burrow. They were like rabbits nesting in a den, hiding from predators in extreme cold. Number 5. Mels Hole. In 1997, Mel Waters was a guest on Coast to Coast AM, a radio show that was hosted by Art Bell. This was a program where people would phone in and talk about their bizarre stories. Mel claimed to have once owned a property near Ellensburg in Washington. It was right at the foothills of the Cascade Mountains. Mel said that on his property was a mysterious hole, a bottomless hole to be exact. Mel claimed he dropped 80,000 feet of fishing line into the hole but never reached the bottom. If true, that would mean the pit went straight down vertically over 15 miles. The hole wasn't just bottomless, though. Mel claimed that the pit had supernatural properties. Mel said his neighbor's dog died, so he threw the corpse into the hole. But a day later, the dog showed up on the property risen from the dead. Mel's own dogs wouldn't go near the hole as if they were afraid of it. He also claimed that every now and again, the hole would shoot a black beam out of itself into the sky like an alien beacon. Before he could get to the bottom of the mystery, the US government showed up and seized his property. They offered him enough money to move out of the country, so Mel relocated to Australia. Scientists say the story is hogwash. Geologist Jack Powell from the Washington State Department of Natural Resources claims the terrain near the Cascade Mountains can't support a hole that's 15 miles deep. The area is too geologically active, which would cause the hole to collapse in on itself. Geologists suspect that if Mel Waters claims to have found a bottomless pit, it was likely just an old mine shaft. There is no hole anywhere in the world that's 15 miles deep. The deepest hole in the world is in Western Russia. And even then, it only goes 7.619 miles underground. Do you believe Mel Waters' story about the magical bottomless pit on his property? Let me know in the comments below. And while you're at it, subscribe. And on to number 4. Number 4. The Secret Cave Shrine. In Britain, railway engineers accidentally stumbled upon a shocking discovery. A landslide occurred at the edge of one of the railway lines, so the engineers had to go clean it up. They couldn't have the landslide debris hitting a passing train, but as they worked to clear the area, they came across a sandstone cave. The cave was likely a lot bigger at one point, but it must have been partially destroyed when the railway was first installed in the 1840s. It looked a little suspicious to the engineers, so they called archaeologists for help. The The archaeologists knew right away that they were dealing with a buried shrine from the 14th century. They believed the shrine was associated with the Chapel of St. Catherine, whose ruins still stand on a hill not far from the exposed cavern. The cave isn't a dark underground lair like the one cave people lived in. It's more of a shallow cavern with a series of niches carved into the walls by human hands. Archaeologists think that each niche likely held a holy statue, representing one of the Christian saints. Cult members who venerated a particular saint would have gone to the cavern and given praise to the statue of their favorite saint. It's amazing because the whole place had been hidden underneath a random grassy hill outside a train tunnel. If it hadn't been for the landslide, the ancient holy cavern would still be buried. It might not have been exposed for at least a few centuries. Number 3. Life on Mars. Scientists in Spain have discovered life thriving 1,900 feet underground, giving them hope that one day they could find the same thing on Mars. Deep in the Iberian Pyrite Belt borehole, they discovered tiny samples of cyanobacteria living in total darkness. It came as a huge shock to researchers because normally these tiny creatures use photosynthesis to survive. They typically convert sunlight into energy in the same way that plants do. But when you live nearly 2,000 feet deep in the earth, there isn't much sunlight to feed off of. Regardless of their difficult environment, the tiny organisms are alive and well. The discovery has renewed hope of alien life in our solar system. The thing about Mars is that it's constantly bombarded with lethal levels of radiation. There isn't any surface water, which is another problem. But the big issue is no atmosphere and too much radiation. According to Dr. Fernando Puente Sancheza, that changes if you go a few feet beneath the surface. He said beneath the surface of Mars is a much more stable environment where creatures could be protected from dangerous radiation. Finding a new form of life thriving beneath the surface of Spain suggests there could be thousands, even billions of tiny life forms doing the same thing 2,000 feet beneath Mars's dusty surface. Number 2. Neanderthal Cannibals. In the 1990s, 6 Neanderthal skeletons were discovered buried in a cave in southeastern France. 2 of the remains belonged to adults, 2 were from teens, and the other 2 were from children. The spooky cave is one of over 200 similar sites where Neanderthal bones have been found. Yet this discovery was entirely unique. This is one of the only caves where evidence has been found that Neanderthals were savage, bloodthirsty monsters. But that might not be totally fair to say. Neanderthals lived during the Ice Age. They existed in a time when the world was rapidly changing. Most of the northern hemisphere had been completely covered by glacier ice for tens of thousands of years. Then, suddenly, things changed. The climate got way hotter, leading to abrupt chaos. Paleontologist Emmanuel Desclos said it happened fast. In just a few generations, the landscape was completely changed, with hotter weather and higher seas. Plants and animals were transformed, and Neanderthals were having a tough time adapting. Theirs was a world of desperation and hunger, and evidently of savage brutality. In France's Bon Moulin Gorcy cave, archaeologists found evidence of cannibalism. The 6 individuals taken from the cave showed the telltale signs of being carved and served for dinner. 50% of the human remains showed cut marks spread across the entire skeleton. Cut marks were everywhere from their skulls to their toes. Researchers also found evidence that many of the bones were crushed and chewed. But were these Neanderthals truly bloodthirsty monsters? Scientists say it was likely a single episode of cannibalism. The Neanderthals who lived in the cave may not have wanted to eat one another, but they had to because they were starved of their typical prey. Then again, maybe it was just the easier road to take. What are your thoughts? Number 1. The Greek Tomb. A subterranean burial was recently found in Italy thanks to cosmic rays. Scientists used muon particles to look underneath Naples, where the team identified an ancient Greek tomb. But what in the world are muons? Muons are subatomic particles that are produced by cosmic rays in the atmosphere. Because each muon has a greater mass than an electron, and because they move through everything like invisible ghost hands, they can be tracked using special detecting modules. The exact science is super complicated, but still pretty cool. Scientists essentially tracked the muon flux, which revealed an empty space underneath the city. And from there, they were able to identify a sealed Greek tomb without having to excavate it. Researchers think the mysterious tomb dates back 2,500 years to before the Roman era. That was when Naples went by the name Cumae, when the region was originally inhabited by the Greeks. This tomb isn't just a single burial plot. Archaeologists believe it could contain the bodies of the original Greeks who founded Cumae. The muon flux also revealed the unexplored catacombs of Christians from the Roman era 2,000 years ago. Scientists cannot physically enter the catacombs. A huge part of the ancient city of Cumae is buried under the modern city. Things like old sewers and cisterns, and obviously tombs. All of it is hidden underneath Naples' modern streets, revealed only by scientists tracking cosmic rays. Thanks for watching. Which discovery was your favorite? Let me know in the comments below, and let me know what you'd like to hear more about. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Bye!